The fold space gate opened like a wound in the fabric of reality. Blue light poured through the tear, and from that light came the ships of Earth. 300 vessels emerged in formation, their metal hulls still glowing from the journey across stars. This was the United Earth Coalition's first interstellar fleet, the greatest achievement in human history. Ambassador Yelena Vasquez stood at the observation window of the flagship Perseverance. She was 62 years old, with gray hair pulled back tight, and eyes that had seen humanity's worst and best moments. She had spent her whole career preparing for this day. First contact with alien civilizations. Humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. She was not prepared for what she saw. Alien ships surrounded them, hundreds of them. Each one was larger than anything humans had ever built. The smallest alien vessel was the size of a mountain. The largest blocked out entire stars. They hung in space like sleeping gods, and the human fleet looked like toys beside them. Admiral Chen Wei-lin stood beside her. He was a calm man, 70 years old, with a face like carved stone. He had commanded Earth's defense forces for 30 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. But even he could not hide the tightness in his jaw as he looked at the alien armada. "They certainly know how to make an impression," he said quietly. A transmission came through. The communications officer played it on the main screen. The image showed a being made of living crystal. Light moved inside its body like blood through veins. Its voice was translated by the ship's computer, but even through translation, the tone was clear. "Welcome, humans," the crystal being said. "I am the High Speaker of the Vethrani. I speak for the Galactic Concord, an alliance of 17 spacefaring civilizations. We have watched your species for some time. Your radio signals reached us 100 of your years ago. We found them amusing." Vasquez felt her stomach tighten. The word hung in the air like an insult. The High Speaker continued. "Your ships are quaint. Your weapons appear to be ceremonial. Your fold-drive technology is charmingly primitive. We abandoned such methods 6,000 years ago. But do not feel shame. Every species must start somewhere." Behind the High Speaker, other aliens appeared on screen. There were beings of fire contained in metal shells. Creatures that looked like insects the size of elephants. Entities made of pure energy. They all watched the human fleet with the same expression. It was not hatred. It was not fear. It was amusement. They were laughing at humanity. Vasquez stepped forward to respond, but Admiral Chen put his hand on her arm. His eyes said, "Wait, listen, learn." Another alien spoke. This one was a tall creature with gray skin and too many arms. "The Galactic Concord has maintained peace in this region for 12,000 years. We have defeated every threat. We have mapped every star. There is nothing in this galaxy that we do not control. We welcome new species," the High Speaker added. "You may join us as provisional observers. We will grant you permission to settle 3 systems at the edge of our territory. Small systems, unremarkable, but they will be yours. 3 systems out of billions." They were offering humanity crumbs from the table. "Our xenoanthropologists will study your culture," the High Speaker continued. "We find your development interesting. You are very young, very violent with each other, but perhaps in time you will mature." Vasquez finally spoke. Her voice was steady, even though anger burned in her chest. "We thank the Concord for this welcome. Humanity comes in peace. We seek only friendship and cooperation." The High Speaker made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course you do. What else could you seek? You have nothing else to offer." The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one on the bridge spoke. The crew of the Perseverance had trained for years for this moment. They had imagined many scenarios. They had never imagined this. A young officer broke the silence. "They're treating us like children." "Worse," another officer said. They're treating us like pets. Admiral Chen raised his hand for silence. He turned to face his crew, and when he spoke, his voice was calm. Too calm. Vasquez recognized that tone. It was the voice he used when he was thinking 3 moves ahead. They see us as weak, Chen said. They see our small ships and our limited technology, and they think they understand us. This is good. How is this good? Chen walked to the star map and looked at the vast territory of the Concord. 17 civilizations. 12,000 years of power. Ships the size of mountains. Empires built on arrogance have blind spots, he said. They stop looking for threats because they believe no threats can exist. They stop innovating because they believe they have achieved perfection. They become slow, comfortable, predictable. He turned back to face the crew. His eyes were hard. Humanity has never been comfortable. We have spent our entire history fighting, adapting, surviving. We crawled out of caves and split the atom. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times and rebuilt each time. That is who we are. That is what they do not understand. He looked at Vasquez. We will accept their offer. We will take their 3 systems. We will smile and nod, and play the role they expect us to play. And then? Vasquez asked. Chen did not smile, but something changed in his eyes, something cold and patient. And then we will show them what humanity can do when it has something to prove. The human fleet moved toward their new home at the edge of the galaxy. Behind them, the great alien armada watched them go. The Concord had already forgotten about them. Humanity was a curiosity, nothing more. A primitive species that would never matter. They were wrong. But that truth would take a century to reveal itself, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. 80 years passed. In the grand history of the galaxy, it was nothing. A blink of an eye. The great empires of the Concord continued their endless routines. They traded, they debated, they celebrated their own greatness, and they forgot almost completely about the small species living at the edge of their territory. Humanity did exactly what they were expected to do. They settled their 3 systems. They built modest colonies on rocky worlds. They traded in minor goods that no one else wanted. Their diplomats attended Concord meetings and sat in the back rows. They smiled at every insult. They never complained. They never demanded more. The Concord xenoanthropologists wrote long reports about human culture. They found humans to be interesting but limited. A species still struggling with internal conflict, one report said. They fight among themselves over resources and ideas. They are divided by old hatreds that they cannot seem to release. In another 1,000 years, if they survive, they may become civilized. The reports were filed and forgotten. Humanity was not a threat. Humanity was barely worth noticing. But in those quiet decades, far from Concord eyes, something else was happening. Deep in the asteroid fields of humanity's territory, hidden installations operated under complete secrecy. No signals left these stations. No ships came or went without careful screening. The project had no official name in any government record. Those who worked there called it Prometheus. Dr. Amara Okonkwo was the project's lead scientist. She was 103 years old, kept young and sharp by the longevity treatments that humanity had developed in secret. She had spent 60 years of her life on this single goal, understanding why humanity was truly different from the Concord species. The mistake everyone makes, she told her team, is trying to copy what the Concord has built. That is a race we can never win. They have had 12,000 years to perfect their technology. We have had 200. We will always be behind if we follow their path. She pulled up images of Concord warships on the display. Massive vessels with devastating weapons. Shields that could withstand the force of exploding stars. But look closer, she said. Every ship follows the same design philosophy. Every weapon operates on the same principles. Their tactics have not truly changed in 3,000 years. Why would they? Nothing has challenged them. They have become frozen in their own success. She switched the display to show human history, wars, disasters, near-extinction events. Humanity has never had the luxury of standing still. We adapt or we die. That is our greatest strength. We do not think like they do. We do not see the universe the way they see it. And that means we can find solutions they would never imagine. The Prometheus team did not try to build bigger ships or stronger weapons. Instead, they studied the assumptions behind Concorde technology and looked for the gaps. They asked questions no Concorde scientist had asked in millennia. What if shields could be bypassed entirely instead of overpowered? What if weapons could disable without destroying? What if ships could exist in multiple positions at once? The answers took decades to find. Many experiments failed. Some scientists died testing theories that turned out to be wrong. But slowly, piece by piece, humanity built something new. Something the Concorde had no framework to understand. During this time, a young Vethrani scholar named Keth Sora requested permission to study human culture. The Concorde granted her request without much thought. Studying primitives was considered a minor academic exercise. Nobody expected her to find anything important. Keth Sora spent 2 years living among humans. She walked their cities. She ate their food. She read their history. She watched their children play and their elders argue. She saw things that surprised her. She saw species that had faced extinction many times and survived every time. She saw people who turned disasters into opportunities. She saw a strange fire in their eyes that she had not seen in any Concorde species. Most importantly, she noticed what was missing. Human ships carried technology that seemed too advanced for their supposed level of development. Human scientists changed the subject when asked certain questions. There were entire sectors of their territory that no outside visitor was allowed to enter. The humans were hiding something. Keth Sora returned to the Concorde with a single warning. She stood before the High Speaker and the assembled delegates and said the words that should have changed everything. These creatures are not what they appear to be. They are playing a role. They want us to underestimate them. I believe they have been preparing for something big. The High Speaker made the sound of dismissal. Preparing for what? They have 3 systems, and no military worth mentioning. They are harmless. That is exactly what they want us to think, Keth Sora said. The delegates laughed. A primitive species fooling the Great Concorde? The idea was absurd. Keth Sora was young. She had let her imagination run wild. Her warning was noted and ignored. She left the chamber knowing that she had failed. But she also knew that she was right. She had looked into human eyes and seen something the Concorde could not understand. She had seen patience. She had seen hunger. She had seen the cold calculation of predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The humans continued to smile and nod and play their role. They traded their minor goods, they attended their meetings, they accepted every insult. And in their hidden stations, they continued to build. 80 years was nothing to the ancient empires of the Concorde, but to humanity, it was enough. More than enough. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The most dangerous species in the universe was not the one with the biggest ships or the oldest history. It was the one that everyone had underestimated. The Keth hegemony came from the far side of the galaxy. They were a warrior species, cold and calculating, with gray scales and eyes like black glass. For 500 years, they had been building their forces in secret, far from Concorde space. They had one goal: to conquer everything. When they declared war, the Concorde did not take them seriously. The High Speaker addressed the assembly with calm confidence. The hegemony is a minor power with delusions of grandeur. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for 12,000 years. No force can challenge us. This war will be brief. He was wrong. The hegemony's opening attack came without warning. 3 Concord core worlds burned in a single night. The strikes were precise and devastating. Billions died before anyone could respond. Defense fleets that had never faced real combat were destroyed in hours. The Concord scrambled to react. Fleet Admiral Thex Moran, the Vethrani military commander, took control of the combined defense forces. She was considered the greatest tactical mind in the galaxy. She had studied warfare for 3,000 years. She had never lost a battle. She gathered the largest armada in galactic history. 800 warships from 12 different species. Vessels the size of small moons, carrying weapons that could crack planets. This fleet would meet the hegemony at the Nexus Cascade, a strategic point between the stars. There, the war would end. Humanity was not invited to join the fleet. Admiral Chen Wei-lin, now 104 years old, but still sharp, received a message from the Concord Command. "Remain in your border systems," the message said. "Guard your little worlds. This is not your fight. You are not ready for real warfare." Chen read the message without expression. Then he turned to his staff. "Begin final preparations. The time is coming." The Battle of the Nexus Cascade was supposed to be a decisive victory for the Concord. 800 warships formed a wall of metal and fire. Thex Moran commanded from her flagship, confident that the hegemony would break against her forces like water against rock. The hegemony fleet arrived. They were outnumbered slightly, but they did not seem concerned. Their supreme commander, a creature named Vorath Khan, opened communications. "You have ruled this galaxy for too long," she said. "Your time is over." Thex Moran gave the order to attack. What happened next would be studied for centuries. The hegemony unveiled weapons that should not have existed. Energy beams that passed through Concord shields as if they were not there. Missiles that adapted to every countermeasure. Technology that the Concord had never seen before. Later, investigators would discover the truth. A Concord member species, bitter over ancient grievances, had secretly traded advanced technology to the hegemony. They had given the enemy the keys to the kingdom. The Concord fleet was not just defeated, it was annihilated. Thex Moran watched her ships explode one by one. She gave orders that no one could follow. Her communications filled with screams and static. In 6 hours, 800 warships became dust and debris. Her flagship was the last to fall. As fire consumed her bridge, Thex Moran understood that she had been wrong about everything. The Concord had believed itself invincible. That belief was now killing them all. The hegemony did not stop at the Nexus Cascade. They pushed forward, taking system after system. The Vethrani homeworld fell in 3 days. The High Speaker died when hegemony forces turned the planet's surface to glass. 12 billion Vethrani died with him. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had existed for millennia faced extinction. The Concord was collapsing. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, except one place. The human border systems, small and unremarkable, sat at the edge of the galaxy. The hegemony had not bothered with them yet. Why would they? Humanity was nothing, a primitive species with no military value. Refugee ships began arriving at human space. Millions of aliens fleeing the destruction. They came in damaged vessels, carrying nothing but their lives. They expected to find primitive colonies, barely able to feed themselves. Instead, they found something that made no sense. Human space was not primitive. The shipyards they saw were massive, producing vessels at impossible rates. The technology they glimpsed was unlike anything in the Concord or the hegemony. Humans moved with purpose and confidence, not the fear of a helpless species. Keth Sora was among the refugees. She had survived the destruction of her homeworld by being off-planet when the attack came. Now she stood on a human station, watching their ships move through space, and she understood. She had been right all along. "You were preparing for this," she said to the human officer who greeted her. The officer, a young woman with calm eyes, nodded. "We have been preparing since the day we arrived in this galaxy." How long have you been building this?" 80 years, the officer said. "We were never what we seemed to be." In the distance, the human fleet was gathering. 300 ships that looked small compared to Concord vessels, but moved with a strange grace. Their hulls shimmered with energy patterns that Keth Sora could not identify. "The hegemony is coming. They will destroy you, too." The human officer smiled. It was not a frightened smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a very long time for this moment. "Let them come," she said. The hegemony, Victory Fleet, entered human space expecting an easy conquest. 2,000 warships moved in perfect formation, fresh from destroying the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. Supreme Commander Vorath Khan stood on her bridge, watching the stars pass. She had crushed empires that had existed for millennia. These primitive humans would fall in hours. Her sensors detected the human fleet before she saw them. 300 vessels holding position at the edge of the Tau Eridani system. They were arranged in a defensive line, blocking the path deeper into human territory. Vorath Khan studied the tactical display and felt something close to pity. The human ships were small. Their energy readings were strange, but did not suggest any real threat. They were outnumbered 8-1. "Open a communication channel," she ordered. The view screen flickered to life. A human male appeared, sitting calmly in a command chair. He was old, his face lined with more than a century of life, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He showed no fear. "I am Supreme Commander Vorath Khan of the Keth Hegemony," she announced. "You are outnumbered. Your species has no combat record. Your technology is a century behind ours. Surrender now, and we may allow you to serve the hegemony in some useful capacity." The human was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, almost conversational. "I am Admiral Chen Wei-Lin of the United Earth Coalition. I am 104 years old. I have spent 80 of those years preparing for this exact moment." Vorath Khan made a sound of dismissal. "Preparing for what? To die?" "To show you something," Chen said. He leaned forward slightly. "We have been watching your war, Commander. We have analyzed every battle, every weapon discharge, every tactical maneuver. We have studied your shield harmonics, your communication frequencies, your fleet formations. We know how you think. We know how you fight." "Then you know you cannot win," Vorath Khan said. Chen smiled. It was a strange smile, patient and cold. "You are making the same mistake everyone else made. You look at our ships and see what you expect to see. You assume we have been trying to catch up to your technology. You think we are a smaller version of yourselves." He shook his head slowly. "We are not like you. We never tried to copy what you have built. We built something entirely different. Something your tactics have no answer for. Something your sensors cannot understand." "Enough talk," Vorath Khan snapped. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy them." The hegemony fleet began to move. 2,000 warships advanced on the thin human line. Weapons charged. This would be over in minutes. Chen gave a single command. Execute. Every human ship activated simultaneously. Energy patterns flared across their hulls, readings that made no sense to hegemony sensors. The ships did not move forward to meet the attack. They did something else. They flickered. One moment, a human ship was in one position. The next moment, It was somewhere else, not moving through space, but simply appearing in a new location, then appearing in another, and another. The human fleet seemed to exist in multiple places at once, ghost images overlapping with reality. Hegemony weapons fired. Beams of devastating energy cut through space. They hit nothing. The targets were never where they appeared to be. Then the human weapons activated. They did not fire beams or missiles. They released something else. Waves of energy that moved through space, like ripples through water. When these waves touched a hegemony ship, the ship simply stopped. Engines died. Weapons went cold. Lights went dark. The ships were not destroyed. They were not damaged in any way that sensors could detect. They simply ceased to function, dead metal floating in the void. Vorath Khan watched in disbelief as her fleet went silent, ship by ship. Her tactical display showed 2,000 green icons turning red, one after another. Her officers shouted reports that made no sense. Nothing in their training had prepared them for this. "What are they doing?" she demanded. "What is that weapon?" No one could answer. The hegemony had fought 100 species. They had seen every weapon the galaxy had to offer. They had never seen anything like this. In 90 minutes, it was over. 2,000 hegemony warships drifted dead in space. Their crews were alive, trapped in darkness, unable to send signals or power their vessels. The greatest military force in the galaxy had been neutralized without a single ship destroyed. Vorath Khan's flagship was among the last to fall. As the strange energy wave approached, she opened one final communication to the human fleet. "How?" she asked. "How is this possible?" Chen Wei-Lin appeared on her screen one last time. "You spent 12,000 years perfecting your technology along a single path. We spent 80 years finding a different path entirely, one you never thought to look for." The wave hit. Her bridge went dark. Chen sat back in his chair and looked at the silent hegemony fleet. His crew was cheering, but he did not join them. His face was thoughtful, almost troubled. His first officer noticed. "Admiral, we won. This is the greatest victory in human history." "Yes," Chen said quietly, "we won." But something nagged at him. The weapons had worked even better than expected. The energy patterns had done exactly what they were designed to do. And yet there was something in the readings that he could not explain. Frequencies that should not have been there. Effects that went beyond the original specifications. He pushed the thought aside. There would be time to analyze the data later. He opened a broadcast to the hegemony fleet, knowing they could still receive audio even without power. "This is Admiral Chen Wei-Lin. Your fleet is disabled, but not destroyed. Life support will remain functional for 72 hours. During that time, you will be retrieved by your own forces. You will return to your space and never enter this region again." He paused. "Tell your masters what you saw here. Tell them that humanity is no longer primitive. Tell them that the edge of the galaxy is closed to conquest." He ended the transmission. The stars were quiet. The hegemony was broken. And humanity had finally proven what it could do. But in the back of Chen's mind, the unexplained readings still bothered him. The weapon had done something more than disable ships, something he did not yet understand. He would not live long enough to discover what. The galaxy was reborn. The old Concord was dead, its great empires shattered by the hegemony's war. But from those ashes, something new emerged. The surviving species gathered, not under the old banner of superiority, but under a new idea, equality. Humanity sat at the center of this transformation. Ambassador Yelena Vasquez stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly. She was 142 years old now, her hair white as starlight, but her mind was as sharp as ever. Behind her stood Keth Sora, the Vethrani scholar who had warned her people so many years ago. She now served as humanity's chief xenodiplomat, a bridge between species that had once mocked each other. The assembly hall was filled with delegates from every surviving civilization. They looked at humanity differently now. Not with the amused contempt of the old days, not with the blind terror of the recently defeated. They looked at humans with something complicated, respect, and underneath it all, a quiet fear. Vasquez understood. She had felt the same way when she first saw what human weapons could do. "You asked us once what we wanted," she said, her voice carrying through the great hall. "We told you we wanted peace. We told you we wanted friendship. You laughed at us. You saw our small ships and our young species, and you thought you understood everything about us." She let the silence stretch. Every delegate remembered those days. Every delegate remembered being wrong. "We do not want your gratitude," Vasquez continued. "We do not want your fear. We want what we have always wanted. A seat at the table. Equal standing. The chance to build something together, not beneath you." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in the new Galactic Compact. Not as a junior partner, but as a founding member. The species that had been laughed at 80 years ago now stood at the center of galactic civilization. Celebrations erupted across human space. The dream had been achieved. Humanity belonged among the stars. But not everyone was celebrating. In the weeks after the great victory, strange reports began to arrive. The Keth hegemony, broken and retreating, had gone silent. Not just defeated, silent. Their border worlds sent no communications. Their ships did not move. Scout vessels sent to investigate returned with disturbing reports. The hegemony worlds were empty. Not destroyed, not abandoned, empty. Cities stood intact, lights still glowing, but no one walked their streets. Ships floated in orbit, fully powered, but no one answered calls. Billions of beings had simply vanished, as if they had never existed. Keth Sora studied the reports with growing unease. "This is not normal," she said to Vasquez. "Even a defeated species leaves traces. Resistance. Something. The hegemony has simply stopped existing." "Perhaps they fled to another region," Vasquez suggested. "Where?" "We would have detected their fleet movements. No ships have left their space. Their people did not leave. They disappeared." The silence spread. Week by week, system by system, former hegemony territory became a void. No signals emerged from that region of space. Ships that entered did not return. It was as if reality itself had a hole in it, and that hole was growing. Admiral Chen Wei-lin died 3 months after the Great Battle. He was 104 years old, and his body had simply reached its limit. But before he died, he left a final recording. His daughter, Admiral Maya Chen, played it in private. Her father's face filled the screen, tired but alert. "I have reviewed the data from our weapon systems," he said. "There is something I cannot explain. When we activated our technology, we detected energy signatures that were not part of the original design. Frequencies that should not exist. Harmonics that suggest our weapons did something more than disable enemy ships." He paused, his old eyes troubled. "I do not know what we created. The Prometheus scientists believed they understood what they were building, but some of the effects go beyond anything in our models. It is possible that we have done something we did not intend." He looked directly at the camera. "Watch the hegemony. Watch what happens in their space. If my fears are correct, we may have won the battle, but started something far worse." The recording ended. Maya Chen classified the message immediately. The galaxy was celebrating. Humanity had finally earned its place among the stars. No one needed to hear her father's doubts. But she watched, and she saw the silence grow. 1 year later, the void had consumed all former hegemony territory. Thousands of worlds, trillions of beings, gone. And at the edge of that silent zone, the darkness was still expanding, slowly but steadily, toward the rest of the galaxy. Human scientists studied the phenomenon in secret. They found traces of the same strange frequencies that Chen had noted in his final recording. The energy patterns from human weapons were still present at the edge of the void, still spreading, still doing something that no one could understand. They gave it a name: the Silence. No one knew what the silence was. No one knew how to stop it. All they knew was that it had started when humanity used its ultimate weapon, and it was not stopping. Vasquez and Kef Sora stood together at a viewing station, watching the star maps update. Another system had gone silent. Another light had vanished from the display. "We saved the galaxy," Vasquez said quietly. "That is what we will tell our children. We saved everyone." "Did we?" Kef Sora asked. Vasquez did not answer. She watched the darkness grow, remembering the day 80 years ago when humanity had first arrived in alien space. They had wanted so badly to prove themselves. They had wanted so badly to matter. Now they mattered more than any species in history. They had defeated the undefeatable. They had earned their place among the stars. But at what cost? The stars continued going silent. The void continued spreading. And humanity watched, uncertain whether they had saved the galaxy or begun its slow and quiet end. In the great halls of the Galactic Compact, the celebration continued. But those who looked closely could see the shadows growing at the edge of the map. The stars were going out, and no one knew how to turn them back on.